Imagine this: a catered outdoor gala, a champagne fountain bubbling under string lights, HOA board members in their Sunday best. And right as their president lifts the mic to read a motion to seize land that isn't theirs, boom! Total blackout. Music cuts. Lights die. People gasp. Someone drops a tray of mini quiches. And me? I'm standing behind my wooden fence, sipping black coffee from a thermos in one hand, holding a remote control in the other, watching the chaos unfold with a quiet smile. But let me rewind a little. Because the story of how I cut the power to an entire HOA event in the middle of their own meeting, well, it all started with a single white line. It was a Thursday. Nothing special. I had just gotten home from a tech expo in Austin, where I'd spent 5 days talking about microgrids and off-grid infrastructure. Nerd heaven, really. I pull up to my property, 3.5 acres of inherited land just outside a gated subdivision, and I stop cold. Because across my wide, grassy field were rows and rows of sloppy, white-painted rectangles, parking lines, like someone had decided my land was a strip mall. But it didn't end there. There were laminated signs that read HOA overflow parking and board reserved. I even saw a sad little balloon tied to a cone like it was a kid's birthday party. I stood there trying to process whether this was a prank or a psychotic break. Then, out from the HOA side, strutted Deborah Callahan, the HOA president, self-declared community visionary, and the most persistent power hugger you'll ever meet. She walked toward me in full athleisure, sunglasses the size of dinner plates, and that tight-lipped smile that only HOA presidents and overpaid consultants can perfect. "Oh, hey, Mason! We didn't think you'd be back till next week," she chirped. "The board voted to use your field for temporary parking. We figured you weren't using it, and the community needs space for this weekend's Leadership Summit." Leadership Summit? She meant the HOA's re-election gala, a pageant of self-congratulation that she orchestrated every 2 years. I said calmly, "Who approved this?" Deborah flipped her clipboard. "Well, technically I did. And my nephew painted the lines. He's in landscaping. No permits, no paperwork. Just Deborah, a clipboard, and a sense of entitlement thicker than Texas heat. Now, here's what Deborah didn't know. I had the receipts, literal ones, deeds, county zoning maps, utility diagrams, everything. You see, my land sits just outside the HOA boundary. Always has. They have zero jurisdiction here. And while they were prepping their tents and setting up DJ lights, they didn't realize their entire gala was being built right over a decommissioned, but still live, electrical bypass. Installed in the 80s during a Cold War infrastructure project, that underground grid connects to an emergency control panel. A panel I restored, legally, quietly, for my own shop's tools and weather station. I'm an engineer, after all. I knew I had them, but I wasn't after petty revenge. I wanted a lesson to stick. So I started collecting evidence. I filmed their vans driving over my fence line, recorded HOA members giving tours like they owned the place. They even drilled rebar through my irrigation system to stake down their party tent. And still, I said nothing. Because my plan wasn't finished yet. Sunday came, the big event, the HOA leadership celebration. The field was decked out. Folding chairs, a makeshift stage, speakers, lights, champagne on ice. Deborah wore a sparkly sash that said, "Madam President," and paraded around like she was about to cut the ribbon on a new city hall. I walked by earlier that day. She waved at me, smug as ever. Probably thought I'd rolled over. As the sun dipped, the party began. A speech about community vision was being made. Toasts, laughter, lawn gossip. Then Deborah walked up to the mic and said the line I was waiting for. "Let's begin this meeting of the board." And right then, I flipped the switch. In an instant, it all went black. Speakers popped. The projector died mid-slide. The champagne fountain gave a dramatic pfft. The backup generator coughed once, then sputtered out with a puff of smoke. It was like watching karma throw a rave in reverse. People panicked. Some pulled out phones. Others tried to figure out why the popcorn machine sparked like it was about to explode. Meanwhile, I stood behind my fence, leaning on the wood post they'd cracked earlier in the week with their delivery van. Deborah was yelling at the sound tech. "Fix it! Why is this happening?" The poor guy opened the panel, scratched his head, and said, "It's not us. There's no feed from the grid. It's like someone rerouted the entire line." Exactly. The next morning, Deborah was a wreck. I watched from my porch with coffee and binoculars. Her usually bulletproof bun was falling apart. She paced the HOA clubhouse lawn like a general who just lost a war. Board members whispered in corners. One of them, Brandon, the treasurer, walked to my gate. "We messed up," he said. "Deborah told us the land was unclaimed utility space. She had some outdated satellite map from 2010. We didn't know you still had infrastructure out there." I just nodded. "You didn't even ask. Or notice the giant private property sign," he sighed. "She convinced us it was strategic for optics. She's been gunning for a county council seat. This was her stunt. A bold HOA initiative. Now it's blown up. And it had. Because that same afternoon, I dropped off a file to the county zoning office. Inside, photos, drone footage, damaged property reports, and most importantly, documentation that they'd built an event on active infrastructure without permit or notice. Lisa from Code Enforcement showed up 2 days later, clipboard in hand, measuring wheel, GPS tablet. She was quiet, thorough, and surgical. She turned to Deborah, who of course came charging in late with a sun hat and a fresh clipboard, and said, "You've violated at least 3 county codes. This land is clearly private. There was no authorization for any construction, staging, or utility connection. You'll receive formal notices." Deborah, eyes wide, shrieked, "This man sabotaged our event. He cut the power." I stepped forward, calm as ever. "I rerouted power from my private line. You tapped into it without permission. That's on you and your unlicensed contractor. But if you want to sue me, you'll find my zoning lawyer has better Wi-Fi than your DJ." It was over. But the damage lingered. Someone leaked the incident to the HOA Facebook group. Screenshots of Deborah mocking residents surfaced. A video of the blackout moment hit Reddit. By Thursday, a petition was circulating to call a vote to remove Deborah as HOA president. And on Saturday, the entire neighborhood gathered, not for a party, but for justice. Dozens of people showed up at the clubhouse. Chairs were arranged. A folding table faced the crowd. Deborah, seated at the center, looked like she wanted to teleport out of her own skin. The meeting began. One of the board members, Carla, read the motion. "Due to repeated abuse of authority, unlawful property use, and violation of county code, we motion to remove Deborah Callahan from her role as HOA president, effective immediately." All in favor? Hands shot up. Even people who'd once backed her. Deborah stood, clipboard shaking. "You're making a mistake." No one answered. I walked forward, said nothing more than, "Next time, maybe knock." She stormed off, and the neighborhood finally exhaled. In the weeks that followed, the field was restored. The fines were paid from HOA reserves. A new board was elected, one committed to transparency, fairness, and, you know, asking before stealing someone's backyard. I still get nods from folks walking their dogs. New residents whisper, "Are you the guy who flipped the switch?" Yeah, that's me. Because sometimes, when power is abused, it takes cutting the power to reset everything. And now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever clashed with an HOA? Ever witnessed leadership overreach or petty neighborhood politics? Share your story in the comments. Let's talk about it. And if you enjoyed this, hit that like button, subscribe for more real-life revenge tales, and send this to someone who's ever faced off with a clipboard tyrant. I'll be in the comments. See you there.